welcome everybody to Body Slam the Competition, our recap show for NXT Takeover Orlando. And let me tell you guys what, as Ray and I were discussing a moment ago, I think we have seen the match of the year. Not to jump too far ahead of ourselves, Ray, but the match of the year took over things tonight. That was a great pay-per-view, man.
It definitely did, and I'm going to say this right now. WrestleMania, good luck, because you got some big shoes to fill, and you have one hell of a show to follow.
I tell you what, WrestleMania has got they've got the chance. They've got double the matches that NXT had tonight, but how bad would it make your main roster look if a show with half the matches, or less than half the matches, actually, if you include the pre-show, less than half the matches beats out your show, your granddaddy of them all, your biggest event of the year? If it beats that, what does that say? Well, it's been happening for some of the past ones, but we're talking WrestleMania. We're not talking, SummerSlam or the Survivor Series.
I'm already saying it happened last WrestleMania. Takeover stole the show last WrestleMania as well. There's no doubt about it. I liked them both
equally last year. I liked them both equally. To me, they were both great. And WrestleMania did lack in a few things last year. Overall, I did like the show. But NXT was solid from top to bottom. I have to give them that credit. I mean, I don't know what is so absolute different versus the NXT, other than the fact that we know that it was Triple H's baby to start with. I have this question I would love to ask somebody for a truthful answer. I want to know how much actual input Vince McMahon has to NXT.
None. He put that baby in Triple H's hand, and this is why NXT is a better product. You grew up in the 80s, okay? You grew up with, the old school wrestling. You grew up in the mentality that Vince McMahon grew up on. So he started that. The reason he started getting into things that started exciting people more, i.e. the Attitude Era, okay, is because of competition. All right. Now, granted, it was competition between two different, entities, two different organizations, three at one point, okay? But you had a guy coming up in that fixture by the name of Paul Levesque. Everybody knows as Triple H. He grew up in that. When you take a guy that grew up in an era that finally skyrocketed and drew ratings, and you put him in charge of something, not only are you going to have a battle basically of brand supremacy, competition, organization, whatever you want to call it, okay, you've got the battle of the old school mind in Vince McMahon, who's running Raw, by the way, against a guy like Triple H who's running, NXT, as well as he's in charge of SmackDown, which is why both of them are pulling in better ratings than Raw, which is why they are the must-see shows. And NXT cuts out all the soap opera bullshit. It cuts out all the stupid drama. It cuts out all the, like I said, the soap opera stuff. It gets down 100% straight in-ring action. Longer matches, yes. They're not limited to what they can do because of fear of getting hurt and everything. They're there to prove that they belong on the main roster, so they're pulling out all. They're not pulling out, or they're not stopping anything. They're going balls to the wall, pedal to the metal, plain and simple, and that's why it's a better product.
And let's not forget, Triple H was a big part of the Attitude Era and making it big as it was as a superstar himself, not just a person behind the scenes calling the shots, but he was one of the actual superstars who was out there each week on the mic, in the ring, doing the stuff, making it a show, no matter whether it was with Austin, The Rock, Kurt Angle, John Cena, whoever it was with. He was a big part of it, making it something big at the time. So it's not surprising that he could take something like this and do it. It's not surprising at all. I just, I hear mixed stories, though. I hear sometimes that Vince, even though it is Triple H's baby, they say nothing goes by without Vince's final approval because Vince is the man of the company. He's the one with the big, giant brass coconuts and everything they say. He's the one that has the final say in it all. But I got to say, if that's the case, if that truly is the case and Vince has the final say over NXT, why is he lacking so much on Raw?
It's because I think it's the giant, huge decisions is what he may have final say. But all in all, It's Triple H going out and finding these guys. It's Triple H that's signing these guys. It's Triple H in the office with a contract. It's Triple H running the behind the scenes. Vince isn't even in Orlando when any of this is going on. It's all Triple H. He's the one taking the flights. He's the one showing up with the shows. Even when you look backstage, usually in the Gorilla, it's Vince McMahon on Raw. You don't see him anywhere on SmackDown, even when they did the backstage segment between Shane and AJ. You've seen Michael Cole, you've seen Road Dogg, you've seen Michael Hayes, you've seen Jamie Noble. No Vince McMahon. He's nowhere. He's not touching any of it, and it's been stated. It's Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer, all of them has stated, plain and simple. And they're some of the biggest insiders, that there are in the industry. And they've already stated Vince doesn't touch any of that. That's all Triple H's babies.
Well, all I got to say is that if that's the case, maybe they should put him in charge of all three shows for the absolute best quality we can get all together. Let's go ahead and start talking about the show here for a second. We kind of started out. Now, I think you and I both are guilty of missing the Sanity match. In my case,
I caught it. I watched it from the beginning. I may have caught it late,
you did?
But I started fresh. So if you don't mind, since, NXT is my thing, you mind if I take the reins on this one?
I tell you what, I didn't see the Sanity match at all. I would like for you to take the reins on this one here, and I want to definitely have some input on the other matches as well. But this one right here, tell us all about it.
Well, let's put it this way. It started out, it was supposed to be Sanity, which is, people know him as Damo, in the independents, but Killian Black, okay? You've got Alexander Wolf, Eric Young, which I feel is one of the best in-ring performers. I mean, he's got one hell of a top rope elbow drop. And you've got Nikki Cross. And it's a solid elbow drop. I mean, you see him position himself perfectly in the air, and he doesn't move until he hits the ground.
But he was one of the great. He was one of the better people in TNA when he was there. He helped carry that product as long as he could while he was there. So he's a great in-ring performer no matter where he is. But he's a very big part of NXT right now, if you ask me. Even though they don't use him a lot at this point.
Right. But it was the same thing they did with the Wyatts. But anyway, they were supposed to face everybody's golden child, and we all love him, the perfect 10, Ty Dillinger. Roderick Strong, you've got, was supposed to be No Way Jose, and then somebody by the name of, which I haven't seen much of, but Ruby Riott. She's kind of like a punk rocker, emo, gothic-like chick, real tiny girl. But during the pre-show, at some point, No Way Jose got attacked by Sanity, and Damo took the steps and slammed it on No Way Jose's arm and took him out, plain and simple. So they needed to find a substitution. And they ended up getting Chris Hero, a.k.a. Cassius Ohno. And I will say this, Cassius Ohno needs to stop wearing the white because he looks sloppy and overweight. And with what he was wearing tonight, it fit him better. But it started out with, with the girls, Nikki Cross and Ruby Riott, and they battled it out. And then it started, they brought in Roderick Strong, and it was a solid match. And it was all over the place. I mean, it was just, it was a train wreck, so to speak, but it was a good train wreck. It was one of them ones that there was disaster and destruction everywhere. And that's all I can say about that. And, I mean, Ohno at one point knocked out Eric Young and Alexander Wolf and looked at Damo, and Damo called him out. And they just didn't even step in the ring against Cassius Ohno yet. But, I mean, it was back and forth. Roderick Strong ended up, by the end ended up tagging in Ty Dillinger. And, I mean, you've seen bodies flying. You even seen Cassius Ohno dive over through the ropes and do a somersault. I mean, just bodies sprawled out everywhere. Wow. Yeah, it was insane. But in the end, the unity of Sanity got the numbers. Ty Dillinger, and it surprised me because Dillinger managed to lift Killian Black up to hit him, to try to hit the tiebreaker. But Alexander Wolf caught him with the boot in the face, and Damo hit him with the finisher, and that was it. Sanity ended up taking the match.
Now, are you a big Ty Dillinger fan?
I am. I am. And I remember back when he was in ECW. I'm not talking about the original ECW. I'm talking about WWE's version. And he was in there, and he got cut loose. And that was back in 2006. He busted his ass to get back to where he is. And I feel that, and we're going to touch on this at the end of the show, but I feel that he's going to be one of the guys getting called up to the main roster. There's no doubt about it. He deserves it.
He kind of grows on me more each time I see him a little bit. I mean, I don't remember him from ECW personally as far as the WWE's version of ECW. I don't really remember him. And to be honest with you, while the first few times I've seen him on NXT, I didn't see the big fuss about him. And then they bring him up into the Royal Rumble, and I'm like, of all the people we get for a surprise entrance, we get him. I figured it was just for the fact that he was, number 10. The entry 10 was the reason why they did it, just to be kind of, something. Just they had no one else to really bring up to it. But I just didn't.
Right. He's been there for 3 or 4 years. He's been there for 3 or 4 years. He's worked his way up. He's proven his worth. I mean, he's one of the unsung heroes, just like Tyler Breeze was in NXT. He was one of the unsung heroes. He was one of the guys that, which is what I'm afraid of, is that they're going to do to him in the main roster when he does go up that they did to Tyler Breeze. And it's going to be a damn shame.
Tyler Breeze is on somebody's crap list right now, that's for sure. I don't know what he did to make somebody mad, but to make him have to dress up as Nikki Bella each week the last couple of weeks, come on. I get the humor aspect of it. I do. But, man, they could do so much more as wrestlers, him and Fandango both. I hate the Fandango gimmick. I never liked the gimmick. The wrestler's not bad. He's a good wrestler. He can put some time out there.
Johnny Curtis is a phenomenal in-ring competitor. When he wrestled down in FCW, which for those that may not remember is Florida Championship Wrestling, which is the newer version, not the original, back in the 70s and 80s. But, no, he phenomenal in-ring competitor. I mean, the dude's got moves. The dude can fly. He's very athletic. He's very agile. He's very fast. But they just took a gimmick, and that was the problem. They throw gimmicks on guys, especially when you get these one-namers. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about Attitude Era versions because, you got your Kane Taker in terms of one-name guys. But nowadays, just let the guys be themselves. Stop slapping these stupid gimmicks on them that don't fit them, and just let them do what they do.
The whole thing with Tyler Breeze that he was doing with the selfie stick and the attire that he wore, that's something that he might have been able to pull off. But I think he was better at pulling it off maybe on 205 Live. I don't know if he's the right weight class for that or not. But
he is the right weight class.
Well, if he is, that's where he should be, and he could do that Tyler Breeze gimmick there and pull that off, just like you've got the gentleman Jack Gallagher. You got the way Neville does his, how Brian Kendrick does. You got so many different people there that are just completely different from each other. Tyler Breeze would fit in perfectly there with that same deal, but they seem like they've completely taken him away from it. Done this whole Breezango tag team thing, which is stupid. Writing out the tickets for fashion and stuff. They're like the village
here's
people,
the thing.
and it's not entertaining.
Done right, you could have Rock and Roll Express 2.0. They're the
not
right
the way they're doing it right now.
They're the right, but you put them in the right gimmick, the chemistry that they have, the moveset that they have, the speed, the quickness, the size, in my eyes, could be Rock and Roll Express 2.0.
So you got to do something too. You got to repackage them. You got to take them off out of people's eyes for a while. You got to repackage them. Maybe even bring them back up to NXT, possibly if you have to. Bring them back in as a face if you're going to go Rock and Roll 2.0, because they never were heels for the most part, except sparingly. So you can't make them believable as heels. But I don't know. I mean, right now with what they got going, I can't get into it. I don't find it entertaining at all. I think they're nothing more but some people to fill time on SmackDown when they need them, just like they were last week with John Cena and Nikki Bella.
Like you said, he had to do something to piss somebody off, having to dress like Nikki, and then Nikki Bella picking him up and putting her finisher on him.
Yes.
But that's for the rewind that we do. But so let's move on to our next match. You had Andrade Cien Almas, which I'm big on him. The dude's great. Okay.
Now, do you know him before this? Before NXT, do you know of him anywhere else?
I caught some matches when he was in New Japan. I caught some when he wrestled in Mexico, but I really picked up on him in NXT. And from what I see, the dude's great. I mean, he's a perfect heel. And you had him facing the NXT live debut of Aleister Black, which, for those that don't know, he technically debuted on WWE television at the UK tournament against Neville as Tommy End, which is his independent name. But that match, now you said you started catching that match, right?
Yes, I came in the middle of that match, and I was like, man, I wish I had gotten here sooner, because that was a very fast-paced, very well-executed match of things they were doing. I was really into it.
Well, my thing is, for as dominant as Tommy End was, Aleister Black was in the independents, he didn't show a great showing like they normally show debuts in NXT, especially at takeovers. I mean, he won. He did win. But it was a great match for what it was worth. It was probably at the bottom of the barrel for me, though. But, I mean, he had a great moveset. You know, he has great speed, like you said. And he does one thing. He'll turn around and he'll go like he's going to dive off it, like through the ropes. But he'll actually jump onto the second rope and do a backflip, land on his feet, and then sit Indian style in the ring. And that, if you miss that move, like you miss your footing once, you're going to get hurt. And you're going to botch it bad. But this guy, the precision is just great. But all in all, that match, I mean, in my opinion, isn't really noteworthy. What about you? For what you've seen?
If I was ranking the matches 1 through 5, it's definitely number 5 on the list tonight as the entertaining factor goes. I didn't have a problem with it. I like Aleister Black. I like his moveset. That finishing move, the kick he put on dude, man. I felt
the Black Mass.
I felt it.
The Black Mass,
I was like,
yes.
Are you kidding me? And it's not just your standard super kick. It's like a roundhouse kick to the face.
Right.
Like, you don't see many people trying those.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. For those that don't know what that is, basically it's a standing roundhouse kick into a super kick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that's basically exactly what it is. It's a spinning heel kick, standing, and catching him like a super kick. And
it's
can be quite
good
devastating.
that you put it that way. It's good you put it that way, because most people, when they hear spinning heel kick, they think Chuck Norris and his famous roundhouse kick, spinning heel kicks he does. It's not like that. He definitely stops as he's spinning around and plants the foot right on the side of their face, the bottom of his foot. It's not like his heel comes around and cracks him across the chin or anything. It's just a straight foot in at that point once he gets turned around. And it looked very dominant and powerful when he hit him with it. It looked strong.
Right. It definitely did. Now, I mean, like I said, there's not much to talk about with that match, so I guess unless you have anything else to say about that one, I would definitely like to move to what I feel was the show stealer of the night.
Man, I've got nothing else on the match other than a lot of props for Aleister Black. I look forward to seeing more of them out of the future. I did see Almas last week on NXT itself. I forget who he faced. I saw him on a regular show.
Right.
I'm not really big on him right now, to be honest with you. I know he's athletic and he's been around for a while, but right now he's one of those
he hasn't
people.
really been around long. He's only been around about a little less than a year. So you're going to see him for a while to come. You're going to see more development in him in terms of character and in-ring style. But the guy is definitely, in my opinion, is somebody to watch. He's going to be one of the top heels in NXT and probably a future champion.
When you were mentioning in Japan and
in
Mexico both, I thought that meant he'd been around for a while, because they made mention Wednesday on NXT that he had been there once before and came back and picked up this feud with this guy he was wrestling against. They were picking up where they left off at, supposedly.
Right, but he used to be a masked wrestler. And as you know, in masked wrestlers, it is a dishonor to take your mask off. He chose to take his mask off to pursue to pursue a different persona, to pursue a new path in his career. He gave up a legacy as a masked wrestler, as a luchador, to pursue what he's doing.
And more power to him. More power to him.
And I have respect for that. And there's only one other person I know of that is a luchador wrestler that has ever removed their mask and has ever come back stronger than ever from that, and that was Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, he took the mask off for a while in WCW, then came right back within WWE again with the mask again.
Right.
I mean, with me and Mysterio, he was the same to most fans. He was the same either way it goes. It was WCW. When he unmasked, it was something you didn't expect to see happen, but you got accustomed to it, and then it didn't matter if he had the mask on or not. It was still Rey.
Right. But he's one ugly son of a bitch.
That's why he had a mask.
Yup.
But moving on to what you talked about earlier, the triple threat elimination. Triple elimination.
You had the triple threat elimination tag team title match.
Right.
You have the Authors of Pain versus my guys, and I'm huge on them, DIY, which is Johnny Wrestling, Johnny Gargano, which he's one lucky man because he's married to Candice LeRae. And you've got Tommaso Ciampa, and the third team was the Revival. And just the feud alone that the Revival and Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano have had against each other alone has been a year-long storied rivalry ever since DIY showed up in the Dusty Rhodes Classic 2 years ago. And it has just continued. And this match, I mean, the fans couldn't have said it any better. This is awesome. Holy shit. This is awesome. Like, fight forever. When you hear chants like that, you know you have a show stealer. But to start the match off, you had the unholy alliance of the Revival and DIY looking at each other like they're going to fight, and just all four of them turned and looked at Akam and Razor and was just like, it's on. And all four of them went after the Authors of Pain. And when you seen that happen, in my opinion, you knew that you were in for something tonight.
Yes, the question was, how long will the alliance last? That was the big burning question for the while. And it didn't take long to answer, because once they got the Authors of Pain out of the ring, then they turned to each other and started going. But you're going to see it, though. It's a triple threat elimination match. You're going to see it eventually. But I did love the fact that off and on throughout the match, they teamed up well against those two guys in efforts to take them out.
Right. I mean, you're seeing bodies flying. At one point, the Revival gets taken out. Johnny Gargano tries to dive onto the Authors of Pain. They catch him. They hold him up. Tommaso Ciampa tries to dive out the ring. They throw Gargano at Ciampa, stopping him. Then catch Gargano again and throw him at the Revival. They're just throwing him around like a volleyball or a beach ball or just a lawn dart. They're using him as a weapon. You've even seen tables get brought out in this match. DIY brings out the table. Now, at one
table,
point,
man, that power bomb, man.
This is how this went, okay? I mean, they're fighting. Ciampa's fighting. It's back and forth. You can't pinpoint certain things, but this right here, you've seen Tommaso Ciampa try to powerbomb one of the Authors of Pain off the side of the ring into the table, and it wasn't working. He was holding on. You've seen Gargano come over after being beaten up, trying to help his tag team partner powerbomb this monster through a table, and they still can't get him down. And just out of nowhere, you've seen the Revival and they say, just fist, no flying? You've seen them fly. And you've seen them just shoulder tackle one of Authors of Pain, helping DIY powerbomb him through a table. And it was just one of those moments that you're just like you said, you'll see enemies team up, you'll see them fight again. You'll see them team up, you'll see them fight again. And another huge spot was at one point you had everybody by the rampway, by the entrance of the ring. And Scott Dawson picked up Johnny Gargano on the top rope and superplexed him off the top rope, and you've seen both those bodies land on all four other competitors.
Now you talk about something dangerous. I was a little hesitant on that move when they pulled it off. I knew what was going to happen just as they did it. Because you see the other guys getting up, so you knew they were going to suplex off into them. But man, what happens? One person messes up, and one of those two guys could have landed terribly wrong and killed themselves possibly. I mean, that was a big high spot, huge.
It was, and you know what they always say at WrestleMania weekend, even SummerSlam weekend, but more so Mania, you see, like I said, balls to the wall. You see them pull out all the stops, and they go for it. It's the Super Bowl for them. It is their Super Bowl. It's WWE's Super Bowl, plain and simple. And you're going to see anything goes. But the big point for me for that match is at one point you had one of the authors of pain. See, it's hard to tell them apart. It really is. Unless you're looking at them, you can't tell them apart, you know. So you had one of the authors of pain in the ring, and you had Scott Dawson and Johnny Gargano, and they're in the ring. And one of the authors of pain is on his knees in the ring, and you just had Gargano and Dawson looking at each other going, all right, what do we do? And they both just said, fuck it. And they did DIY's tag team finisher. Two opposing members of a tag team did one tag team's finisher on one of the authors of pain, that super kick into the knee, into the side of the head, and just knocked them down. And then you've seen the other authors of pain run it, Tommaso Ciampa and what's the other guy's name from the Revival? Dash Wilder.
Yeah,
Dash Wilder. It's like a porn name, Dash Wilder. You know, he got asked about that on Twitter. But anyway, you know, so you've seen the other author of pain run at him. Ciampa lifts him up into the Shatter Machine.
It's like watching, like you mentioned, I grew up in the 80s. Seeing that happen between those two tag teams is like imagining Ricky Morton and Bobby Eaton of the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express doing a double drop kick on Arn Anderson of the Minnesota Wrecking Crew. Okay,
right.
It's like watching Road Warrior Animal and one of the
Steiner
Powers
Brothers.
of Pain, or the Steiner Brothers. Yeah, that's a good one. The Steiner Brothers. You watch an animal pick him up while Rick Steiner comes off the top rope with the big clothesline for Doomsday.
That's like watching the Dudleys do the 3D using somebody else's help. That's like you know what I mean? It's like watching the concerto happen with Edge and somebody else using the chairs. That's the epitome. This is what I feel.
But the thing is, it's always
the
bitter enemy, though. It's the bitter enemy you're throwing it. So it would have been like Edge and Matt Hardy doing it to somebody else. You know, they were bitter enemies at one point. Edge and Matt Hardy doing it to Bubba Ray Dudley in the table, ladders, and chairs match. You're taking the move of somebody else. They're two teams putting it together, and you don't see much of that. Is the point we're trying to make here? For anybody wondering what are they babbling about? You don't see that happen because you're a tag team. You work fluently together. You don't expect another tag team, even though you've been against them quite a few times and you have great charisma together and great matches together, to pull off and say, hey, let's do your move. And now they can, no problem, just like it was magic, just like it was meant to be, and do that move.
Like it was fate. You know, it was just smooth. It was so smooth, too. But, you know, and then it went down. The match didn't go downhill. But, you know, the competitors, some of the competitors started going downhill in the aspect of, you know, you got in-ring psychologists like the Revival. Now, after the superplex was done to them, they continued the rivalry. The DIY and Revival went right back at it with each other. and Dawson threw Ciampa in the ring, and that was a wrap. The Authors of Pain took out the Revival, pinned, did the final chapter on Ciampa, took out DIY, eliminated them, and it left the Revival and Authors of Pain. And Revival, as if anybody that's been following NXT, did not want to fight the Authors of Pain one-on-one because they knew they were in trouble, and that's what happened. They got hit with the Collider's powerbomb, and that was it. And that was the end of the match.
I tell you what I wanted to see, Ray. I wanted to see when they teamed up together and put each other's move together for on the Authors of Pain. I wanted to see one of them get pinned and get put out, or when they had the one guy in the double submission hold.
He had him in the reverse figure four. Dawson had one of them in reverse figure four, and Johnny Gargano came over and put him in the crossface at the same time.
Yes. I wanted to see them go ahead and put the Authors of Pain out and be just the two of them like it had been in the past because they have such great stuff together. But it didn't quite work out that way. And I was not – it's not that I wasn't unhappy with it because it was a great match. It was just awesome from beginning to end. I was just really wanting to see one of them take those belts back. But I guess at the same time, me and you have speculated in the past few weeks that one of those two tag teams might get moved up.
Right, but we'll move on to that part as far as who may or may not go up after we go through the review after the last match, because it's definitely going to be something that's going to come up. But they also introduced brand new tag team titles.
Yes.
They got rid of the old ones and they brought it back in, or they brought in new ones. So, and they're not bad. You know, they're rounded. They're not as square as they were. You know, they're nice. Everybody will have a chance to see them. But now the next match, which, you know, I thought it was good. It wasn't where I thought it would be for who was in it. And that was for the Women's Championship, Asuka versus Ember Moon. And it was good. You know, they were on the same page with each other. It just, I don't know, it was lackluster to me.
It's third on my list of matches for tonight. As far as favorite matches, it's third on my list. It was not awful by any means. I thought it was one of the better matches Asuka's had against as far as competition goes.
Right.
Mickie James gave her a pretty good match when she faced her.
Bayley gave her a pretty good match. But I thought Ember Moon just looked like she was the most ready for her as far as the moveset goes. And Ember Moon was probably more athletic than Mickie James and Bayley both, so it made it a little bit more entertaining with what they could do with it. I liked the way they started out countering each other with some of this stuff. She was ready for what Asuka had, and it looked like a really good match there. But, you know, it was like a mirror image of moves at one point. And I did see a couple mess-ups. You know, at one point Asuka went to kick Ember, and Ember dropped to her back too soon, and it looked a little sloppy, and I think it's because they don't know each other well. The chemistry isn't there yet, and I feel there will be a rematch, and I think it'll be a better match, but it was just lackluster. But what we did see, and I feel that it's going to be a turn. I feel that, you know, we've seen signs of a heel turn from Asuka, because Ember Moon went to do the Eclipse, and Asuka shoved the referee into the ropes, knocking Ember Moon down.
You know,
basically trying to cheat her way to not losing that.
Since she's been there, though, I mean, at times I couldn't tell if she was supposed to be a heel or a face anyway.
Well,
That's
she's gotten cockier. She has officially become the longest reigning champion, whether it be tag team champion, whether it be NXT heavyweight or women's champion. She has officially become the longest reigning NXT champion ever, holding it at, which will be now up until her next match, could be 2 weeks from now, a month from now. You're already looking at a 13, I'm going to say it right now, until her next title match, you're looking at a 13-month reign. As of right now, it's a full 366-day title reign, because she won it at NXT Takeover Dallas last year, beating Bayley. Okay, you're going to be looking at a 13, 14, maybe 15-month reign before she loses that title, which, again, is another brand new title, which, if you live under a rock, then you won't know why they probably changed the belts. But for those of you that don't, because there were photos that surfaced of, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it on here.
We are a rated R show, so spill it, please.
There were photos that surfaced of Paige with the NXT Divas Championship on her chin with her face and the belt full of semen.
And it's probably a good reason to go ahead and switch out the look of that belt at the time, because nobody wants to be reminded of that whenever they see that belt up close and personal. That's the first thing that a lot of people will start talking about, especially online.
How many of them women have kissed that belt? Oof.
Oh, now see, you had to bring that up. Now, oh, that's great. Now, I'll tell you, I can tell Mike, man, great. Now we're getting no women listeners on the show now, man. Way to go.
Yeah, but
no,
don't let women lie. They're just as perverted as we are. They just hide it better.
They hide it a lot better.
It was the match. It was lackluster for me. It was, for number 5 would be Tommy and Aleister Black and Andrade. Number 4 would be the women's match. Number 3 would be, the 8-man tag. I felt there was more action to it. I felt that it was even that match was getting chanted, "This is awesome." You didn't get much out of that. You didn't get much crowd reaction in this women's match.
If I had watched the Sanity match, I might have had that one as my 3rd, but since I didn't get to see it, I just automatically dropped it to 4th, because I figured, being what I've seen from Sanity and Dillinger and all them on regular NXT shows, it had to be better than the Aleister Black and Almas match. Even though I liked it, it had to be better than that. So,
well, after the Asuka match, I'm going to say this: there was a spotting in the crowd, and it's a free agent. And that man is Drew Galloway. In the audience, and for those of you that may not remember, he was Drew McIntyre in the WWE. And
there's been talks of
spotted. Yes, but what happens every time you see a superstar in that audience?
They usually end up on NXT. Bobby Roode, for example.
Right. Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe, the names go on. You see them in the audience, they end up being signed. And looks like we're going to have a return. And I'm going to guess it's going to be a build-up. And he's probably going to have his in-ring debut at NXT, wherever, or NXT Brooklyn again.
Well, he's definitely worthy of being there. I'm not quite sure why they got rid of him to begin with the first time around, unless there was some issues that they had with him, but
he wanted out. But my thing is this. I feel that he's going to progress better in NXT because they can concentrate more on his in-ring. They can do more with him. Because with the overfilled roster on the main roster, he's going to get lost in the shuffle. Granted, there are a lot of people in NXT, but the bigger guys that have been there, the guys that have been there longer, they're getting more showtime. While the guys that are still developing, they're still working on the live shows, because you got to prove yourself worthy to be on the TV tapings, to be shown live on television. So until then, you're working house shows.
Right.
But with guys like Drew Galloway, Drew McIntyre, whatever you want to call him, okay, I'm going with Drew Galloway because I've always liked that gimmick better. Although his music when he was Drew McIntyre was better. But, he's going to shine. And he's going to be one of those guys, especially with his run in TNA, especially with his run in WWE previously, and especially with, what he's done in the Indies. He's going to be a guy they're going to want to put a belt around again. And there's no doubt about it. And that's probably one thing they promised him in a contract signing. So,
well, no, we got, let's see, we are over Asuka and Ember Moon. We got the main event of the night. And we're down to 19 minutes, so it's a good time to jump on it. Bobby Roode against Shinsuke Nakamura. And, man, I'm going to be honest with you, I had mixed feelings on this match when it started because I'll explain why. I like Nakamura's style in the ring. I don't like listening to him talk. I'm sorry for anybody that's listening and hates me for it, but I don't like listening. I wish they would just, when they give him the mic, I wish it'd have sound difficulties where we wouldn't hear it sometimes.
But you know what? You hear him talk in NXT, and it's one way. I've heard him on podcasts. I've heard him on the Jericho podcast. He speaks amazing English.
I wish they would let him do better than on TV.
English for his gimmick. Right, but they use it for his gimmick. You know?
I wish they would,
and
because
I can understand
it's bothersome.
Well,
but
I agree.
Bobby Roode, I like Bobby Roode a lot. Since he's come a long way from Beer Money. You know,
he came a long way since before Beer Money. I remember when he came into TNA and he had the long hair, and you know, he was the money man, Bobby Roode. You know, he had the money and he was flashing. He was their version of Ric Flair, more or less.
Mhm.
And he progressed, and then he lost the hair. He cut it short, and then you've seen a whole new demeanor when he went into Fortune from Beer Money, and then he went on and did his thing and became the TNA World Champion, and he's progressed, and he's got the mean streak, and he is a future WWE Hall of Famer. There's no doubt about it.
He's got to be a future WWE champion at one point on one of those brands. He's got to be. The way he is in the ring, I mean, he's got the, excuse the pun, the flair about him that he makes you, in a way, he makes you kind of want to hate him, but you can't help but like him because it's so cool. I mean, the music he's got is even cool.
Well, that's what I liked about tonight. Right, his entrance tonight, his robe, the robe was just, it was, and you know what? Call me gay for saying it. So, you know, all right, call me whatever for saying it. I probably shouldn't use that term. But just call me whatever. The robe was amazing. It was beautifully done. It was fabulous. It was a great robe tonight. You know, it was something different. His entrance, the pianos. And that's what shocked me tonight, is you didn't see many of those special entrances like you have in other takeovers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the last time these two met. You know, you had Shinsuke riding in on the thing with the strobe lights, and you had Bobby Roode with the chorus, the choir and everything, and coming down with the ladies. You know, this one here, it was just Bobby Roode coming out with the pianos at first, which was great. Don't get me wrong, but the match.
You know why I bet they did it? I bet they did it because they don't want to upstage the entrances for WrestleMania itself, because WrestleMania is always big on their entrances, for at least for a while now. It didn't used to be that way, but something happened with the ring entrances that they make a big, huge deal out of them, and for the last few years especially, they've been getting bigger, or they've tried to outdo themselves from the year before every year. So I kind of get the feeling they might not want to try to overshine some of that stuff, because what you're talking about exactly, Bobby Roode having the chorus and the girls bring him down, the people out there for Nakamura playing the violins and everything, playing it live as he's coming in.
Right, but you would think Orlando is the home of NXT. This is their WrestleMania. This is their homecoming. Do something.
Oh, I agree with you. I wish it. I wondered. I questioned to myself when they were watching it, because I remember saying, I was like, man, this is not quite as big as an entrance as they've had in the past. I wonder why they're cutting back on it. And I was thinking about it, and that's the only reason I could come up with was maybe they were trying just not to outshine the WrestleMania. They didn't want to make WrestleMania. I mean, it's like you said earlier. Good luck WrestleMania topping this entire thing, because it was a great pay-per-view top to bottom. And it might have been kind of hard to rank, some of these that we have, between like the Aleister Black and Sanity back and forth for me and stuff, but it's top to bottom great.
Well, this match, as a matter of fact, like I said before, I've watched it multiple times, and it's still on repeat right now. I'm actually at the Shinsuke Bobby Roode match, and it was a well put together match. I feel it was better than San Antonio, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely. I mean, I'm trying to remember who I was on the San Antonio. That was when you had Nakamura and Roode there. That's where
you had the Revival. You had Asuka versus Mickie James.
Right.
You had Ty Dillinger versus Eric Young. You had you had the Fatal 4-Way Women's match. Yeah, I mean, it didn't have. Oh, you had Samoa Joe was not there. This ended up being a better card in my opinion. But the match itself, it was a great match. It was back and forth. Shinsuke didn't back down, but in the end, it took Shinsuke kicked out of the DDT, but in the end, it took Bobby Roode to do almost like a tornado DDT to finish Shinsuke. I mean, Shinsuke went to go for the Kinshasa, and Bobby Roode hit him with a snap spine buster.
Oh yeah,
and that was the downfall of Shinsuke. Plain and simple. But in terms of rankings, it was number 2. I still say that tag team match, it was, like Rob Van Dam would say, the whole fucking show.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I hope I'm not wrong, because I thought I remember reading this, but was it the number 1 match from last year? A DIY and Revival match?
Oh, for a match of the year? Yeah.
Yeah, in WWE.
For the number... Yeah, for match of the years, as in terms of what came out of NXT, it was DIY and the Revival. It is
overall, the overall company brand, in general. I think they were the number 1 match of all of them.
Well, that's a tough call because you look at the match from SummerSlam between John Cena and AJ Styles, that stole the show.
It was good,
and it's John Cena. John Cena is the 5 moves of doom. I mean, he moves like Hogan. He moved better when he debuted against Kurt Angle. And his just moveset got more and more limited. And I don't know if it's just because of nagging neck injuries and his pec and everything else like that. But that show, that match was just, and no pun intended, but that match was phenomenal.
Yes.
But you're right. DIY and Revival stole it. They stole match of the year. Number 1. So, I mean...
I'm going to see if I can find this for you here while you're talking about that. I'm going to see if I can find it real quick. I got it coming up on the screen now. It was the top 25 matches of the year is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to see if I can get that to pop up on here for us. It is bringing up, for some reason, something completely different. Go figure.
Well, while you're looking at that, I want to move on to this. Tomorrow's WrestleMania. Okay. There has already been one announcement for an NXT guy. And Killian Black, from my understanding, is going to be in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. That has been announced tonight that he is going to be in it. The big guy from Sanity. Rightfully so. They need another monster. And now in terms of that, that's a guy that may or may not move up quickly. I also just found out that tonight, the Young Bucks defeated the Hardy Boys for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships.
When I was going to look it up, I wondered how that turned out.
Yes, the Broken Hardys lost. They're coming to WWE. Now, they're in Orlando. Do you think they're going to show at Mania tomorrow?
The talk has been pretty big about it. It's a highly rumored thing to have happen. The question is, how are they going to show up? Are they just going to make an appearance? Or
look
what?
at it this way. What happened with The Rock?
You only got 1 tag team match happening tomorrow as far as belts go.
Right. You look at it last year. The Rock showed up when he showed up with the flamethrower, and it was an impromptu match against Eric Rowan. Look who's hosting this year. Look at the invitations that were sent out by the Hardy Boys.
That was one.
For Tag Team Armageddon. I'm calling it now. Impromptu match between the Broken Hardys and the New Day.
That could be very good. That could be a good match right there. And you're right, they did call them out. That was one of those matches that was brought up and called out. And they have had quite a few of those come true already. They called out the Young Bucks. That happened with the Young Bucks. They called out the Day of New. And that's a very good possibility of happening.
And Baron Corbin was wearing a jacket at the Hall of Fame ceremony, which, by the way, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I want to continue my thought process on, the Raw, the biggest Raw of the year. That Hall of Fame ceremony, it was heartfelt. It was amazing. Teddy Long was hilarious. Kurt Angle, one more match. They were chanting it, booing Roman Reigns every time the camera was on him. It was just all around a great one.
I got to say something about that. Did it not crack you up? Rock and Roll Express are doing their thing. They're talking, all right? Ricky Morton is saying something. The camera suddenly goes to Roman, and the crowd boos hard. And Ricky looks up like, what? Oh, whoa. I better stay off that subject, I guess. Whatever it was. I wonder if they actually seen him on the monitor and knew they were booing him, or if he thought they were actually booing what he was talking about.
Oh, no, I think they realized what was going on.
The timing was so uncanny.
But the Rock and Roll Express, what Ricky Morton said to Robert Gibson, it brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
He actually had to look away because you could tell he was about to cry.
Yeah,
and
both of them.
It was great. And then, yes, and what they did with Beth Phoenix, and you've seen Candice Michelle in the audience. You've seen Kelly in the audience. And I want to say this, Maria Menounos in that dress, oh my God. Oof. Always stunning. Eve Torres being there, and I understand, they're all friends with Beth Phoenix, but there's been a lot of word that there are going to be some other divas, women wrestlers, to show up because SmackDown, every woman available on the roster, and Kelly has already been stated she signed a 3-year contract with WWE. So I'm feeling she's going to show up. But also Edge. When they brought out Tony Chimmel and they played Edge's music, and he said the 15-time world heavyweight, or whatever it was, the 10-time world heavyweight champion, or 12-time, the rated R superstar Edge. I mean, it was just awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I liked about the Hall of Fame, and if you or Mike, either one or both of you together, are into it, I wouldn't mind doing a show covering the Hall of Fame this year, even if it's a small show like this for an hour. That was a really fun thing I liked watching. I'd like to talk more about it again, but I wanted I found this thing I want to bring up to you. You mentioned a moment ago DIY and Revival. Last year in 2016, John Cena, AJ Styles, Money in the Bank match was number 15. Number 6, Revival DIY, Brooklyn 2. Number 3, Revival DIY, Toronto. Number 2, Cena and Styles, SummerSlam. There you go. You called that one.
That was number 1, out of curiosity.
Okay. This is number 1, and I don't know if you're going to believe it or not, and Mike and Chuck Killjoy himself, they cannot stand this guy. They hate him more than anybody else on the roster, it seems like, because they say he's got no personality or anything like that. Sami Zayn and Nakamura and Takeover Dallas.
I'll take it. It was a phenomenal match because, like I said, last year I think stole the show. But speaking of that and main roster, we have about 7 minutes. I want to talk about the Raw after Mania. Okay? You've got guys that just lost. And from my understanding, they gave Nakamura a standing O after his match night, after the cameras went off.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm calling it right now. Ty Dillinger being called up. The Revival being called up. DIY. They're probably going to stick around a little bit longer, only because the tag team division right now, there isn't much right now in NXT. You're battling between 3 teams, and they're going to start bringing in other guys, and in a few months you're going to have the one guy from TM61 back off of injury. Okay? You're going to have Nakamura is going to show up. Now, and it can't even be considered the Raw after Mania because now that it's 2 brands, you're going to have the Raw after Mania and you're going to have the SmackDown after Mania. So you're looking at the 2 brands after Mania. Okay? Those 3 right there, I say, are what's being called up. Asuka, I know she's been doing house shows, teaming up with Tamina and Becky Lynch, I think it is, against Natalya, Carmella, and Alexa Bliss. So there's a chance she could be pulling double duty like Paige did. But those are going to be the 3 big names that are going to be getting called up, I feel.
It's a very good chance of it for sure. I mean, which one do you think they would go to if they go? I'm thinking Revival. Since we've been kicking it around here, I think they'll end up on Raw.
Well, they need to revamp that Raw Tag Team division, and they're going to bring the Revival into that, I feel, because the Tag Team division in SmackDown is solid. It's a very strong division. Raw's lacking a lot in that. And being as Triple H has the authority, he's going to want to bring his own guys into his new authority, which there's been, teases of it. And who would better not than the Revival? You know what I mean? I think they're going to bring Nakamura. If AJ ends up going to Raw, they're going to bring Nakamura there to set up for like Nakamura AJ for Mania next year. But it's all going to depend on where AJ Styles is. If AJ stays on SmackDown, Nakamura is going to SmackDown. If AJ comes to Raw, Nakamura is going to Raw. They're going to put him where the ratings are better to an extent because they're going to want to see more action out of him, but in the same turn, they might take him to Raw because they know it'll bring the ratings.
Right.
And Ty Dillinger, I feel, may end up on SmackDown because if you remember the Twitter battle between him and The Miz, which, by the way, speaking of which, I don't know if you caught this at the Hall of Fame.
I did. I know where you're going already.
Everybody chanting, "Let's go, Miz. Let's go, Miz."
Did you see him turn around and look at him? He's like, "Me?
Yeah.
Me?"
Like,
yeah.
He didn't even see that coming. For once, the fans chanted The Miz, and that was the amount of people that were there. Were the amount of people that would be at a live show, that would be at a pay-per-view, that would be at, a Raw or SmackDown, because it was essentially inside of a regular arena.
Mm-hmm.
And you have all of them chanting that. Could there be a face turn for The Miz? And if there is, it's a bad decision.
I think he gets to stay heel. They like him as a heel anyway. He's got to stay that way. If you're bringing Dillinger up to SmackDown, he's going to be there. Let him be the face anyway. Let him take on The Miz for a while. Let it go with that.
Right. Well, speaking of that and speaking of Mania, we got about 3 minutes, Chris. And,
we got like a minute.
I want to call it now.
We actually got a minute 35, so you got to make it quick.
Oh, well, I was going to do quick Mania predictions, but we're down for that.
We're down too low on that one, I'm afraid. Actually, go ahead and start it. We'll carry it over a little bit longer. If you remember last week, it recorded us going over. So let's go ahead and get them in real quick.
Right. I'm calling it now. Naomi, Enzo and Cass, Braun Strowman winning the Battle Royal, Lesnar winning, unfortunately Roman winning, Cena and Nikki Bella winning, Baron Corbin's going to win the Intercontinental title, Austin Aries is winning the Cruiserweight, Kevin Owens is defeating Chris Jericho for the United States Championship, Bayley's going to pull it out of her ass and somehow win and keep the Women's Championship. Triple H is going to win because of Samoa Joe interfering because it's a non-sanction and Samoa Joe is not on the card. And I'm calling the Hardys are showing up.
Well, everybody, you heard it here today. The man has made his predictions. I'm not going to put a full card prediction out. I'm going to hit a couple of highlights of it. I'm going to say Baron Corbin wins the Intercontinental title. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that Triple H does win, like you said, because Triple H is not going to get showed up at WrestleMania, even though it would, Seth Rollins is already over. You don't have to put him over. You can draw this feud out for a long time with him, Triple H, Samoa Joe, and keep it going for a while longer. I'm going to go ahead and say that Enzo and Cass are going to win for sure, like you said, and get their time to shine. And,
which, by the way, it is a triple threat ladder match, which is also something that is paying homage to a WrestleMania involving the Hardys.
Exactly, right. And we all know it's a given that Brock's going to get the title, so I'm not even going to try to predict that, or Jericho. Jericho's going to be gone for a while. But I do look forward to that tomorrow. Sorry you're not going to be here tomorrow with us, man. It'll be a great event to talk about tomorrow night and everything. It's going to be fun. But we do have a show together on Monday night as well.
I might be able to call in. We'll see what happens, depending on my schedule tomorrow, because I'm not actually going to be home. But I might be able to get in a call. You know.
Well, if you are able to call in, great. If not, we got a show on Monday night. Don't forget that as well. We've got Kim Artlett from the Ignite Wrestling that's going to tell us about her company, and they just had a big event. Just happened earlier today in Orlando as well, where they had quite a few big names for the indie circuit there. Names such as the Ugly Ducklings, the Gym Nasty Boys, which is Timothy Retton and White Mike. There was Dave Christ was there. Man, I'm drawing a blank. I wish I had that thing in front of me here, as I don't get to watch these guys. I hear about them all the time, but I don't get to watch them. She's supposed to put up a video later, and I'm going to share it once it goes up so you can see it if you want to that way. But
yes.
We will go ahead and talk with her on Monday night and everything and get that great interview in. And then maybe later in the week, if you guys want to, we might do a Hall of Fame show or something just to get that in and talk and discuss more about that. That was a fun show to watch Friday night, and I really enjoyed it as well. So in the meantime, we'll go ahead and wrap this up for tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the NXT Takeover pay-per-view. I hope you enjoyed our take on it and everything. Once again, tomorrow night we're doing the WrestleMania podcast right afterwards at our normal time at 10:30 p.m. Central, and at 11 o'clock Central on Monday night with Kim Artlett of Ignite Wrestling.
But that's, mind you, that's if it doesn't run over like it did last year.
What's that, Mania?
Yeah.
Oh, it's already set. I'll have to start it anyway and go with it from there. We'll have to just do something, but I'll do something with it. We are smart with our podcast. We will make something out of it. You watch.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, thanks for being with me here tonight, Ray. Look forward to Monday night talking to Kim, and if you do make it tomorrow, that's awesome as well. Everybody,
yes.
We will see you tomorrow on the show. Thanks for listening to us tonight, and this will be up on YouTube for tomorrow. So catch you
enjoy, guys.
Later on, Ray.
Later on, Chris.